네, 반갑습니다. 저는 한신대학교에 있고요. 전병유라고 합니다. 오늘 첫 번째 세션 기조강연 사회를 맡게 되었는데요. 한국노동연구원 먼저 36주년 개원을 축하드립니다. 아마 제가 이 기조강연 사회 맡게 된 거는 제가 KLI 노동연구원 OB라는 특혜를 받은 것 같기도 합니다. 그래서 대단히 영광스럽고요. 오늘 첫 번째 기조강연은 OECD의 안젤리카 살비 델 페로 OECD 선임 자문관이십니다. 안젤리카 박사님은 이태리 밀라노 유니버시티 오브 밀라노에서 박사학위를 받으셨고요. 월드뱅크에서 이코노미스트로 일도 하셨고 아마 2010년에 OECD에 같이 조인을 하셨을 것 같습니다. 2010년에 조인을 하셔서 거의 고용노동 사회정책본부에서 여러 가지 다양한 연구들을 하셨고요. 지금은 그 선임 자문관으로 역할을 많이 해주시고 계십니다. 아까 그 여러 가지 AI에 대해서 AI가 노동에 미치는 영향이랄지 그 단순히 일자리에 미치는 영향을 넘어서 교육이랄지 교육 문제도 있고 여러 가지 윤리와 차별의 문제도 있고 교육 훈련에 미치는 영향도 있고 대단히 다양한 영향을 미칠 것 같습니다. 최근 AI 기술 발전이 너무 거침없이 빠르게 진행되고 있어서 그것이 우리 사회와 우리의 노동에 어떻게 영향을 미칠지 대단히 불확실한 상황인 것 같습니다. 당연히 불확실성은 많은 사람들에게 불안을 야기를 하는 측면이 있고 그렇지만 그러한 불확실성과 불안에 대비하려면 우리 인간은 조금 더 많은 지식과 정보로 대응할 수밖에 없는 것 같습니다. 특히 이 이슈는 우리 한국 사회뿐만이 아니라 글로벌한 사회 전체에 지금 커다란 이슈를 제기를 하고 있기 때문에 글로벌한 다양한 선진국을 비롯한 개도국까지 포함한 다양한 국가들에서 어떤 방식으로 AI가 진행이 되고 있고 그것이 어떤 문제를 야기를 하고 있고 그런 문제에 대해서 국가별로 어떻게 대응을 하고 있는지 아마 그런 걸 알 수 있는 좋은 시간이라고 생각이 됩니다. 특히 엔젤리카 박사님은 그 최근에 노동 작업장에서의 윤리 문제 이런 부분과 관련해서 많은 연구를 해주셨어요. 그래서 단순히 일자리 문제뿐만이 아니라 대단히 다양한 이슈들에 대해서 여러 가지 좋은 말씀을 해주실 거로 생각이 됩니다. 저희에게 부여받은 시간은 50분인 것 같습니다. 그래서 박사님께서 한 20분 내지 30분 정도 발표를 해주시고요. 저한테 토론자의 역할도 좀 부여를 받아가지고 제가 지정 토론도 하고 청중에 계시는 많은 분들께서도 질문을 해주셨으면 감사드리겠습니다. 그러면 바로 발표 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 안젤리카 선임 자무관님 지금 화면에 뜨나요?
I am. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
예, 잘 들립니다. 화면.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation. It is an honor to join you for this important conference and for your anniversary seminar. Congratulations on your anniversary. And I am here to present our research, the main findings of our research on the impact of AI on the labor market and what we know about the policy responses and what the OECD is doing. So I want to start by saying that there is a lot of anxiety in our societies, in our economies about the impact that AI is going to have on our jobs. And in particular, many are worried that AI will automate most jobs or many of our jobs. So what is the evidence that the OECD has on this? When we looked at the risk of automation from AI and other digital technologies, we find that on average, across OECD countries, the jobs most at risk of automation are around 27% on average of employment in OECD countries. So the risk of automation, it is high, but as far as you can see now, it does not affect most of the jobs. We also have to think that employment rates are at record highs. As you can see from this slide, the employment to population ratio, so the share of population that is in work among people of working age, has steadily increased in the past 15 years or so, except for the COVID period that you can see around 2020. But aside from that crisis, employment rates are increasing. And so because the adoption of digital technologies and of AI has already started from a while ago, well before ChatGPT, we can say that so far there has not been a strong negative impact on employment. But we wanted to know more specifically about the impact that AI itself has on the labor market. And so to answer this question, we have run surveys on the impact of AI in the labor market in a few OECD countries, in 7 countries. But before going there, I want to talk about the fact that on top of having increasing employment rates, we also see that, as you know well, there are looming declines in the workforce. This is because populations are aging quite rapidly, and this will mean that we will have a decline in the population of working age. As you can see here, on average, in the next 40 years, we expect that the working age population will decline by 11% across the OECD, but in some countries, including Korea, much more than that. In Korea, it's almost 50%, according to our projections, if nothing changes. This means that at least we will need AI to increase our productivity and to automate some of the tasks, have enough workers to care for all the needs of our economies and societies. I'm not saying that AI will resolve the situation of aging, because we will certainly need to increase employment rates among women, among older workers, among young people, but AI will need to help our productivity for sure. So all of this to say that at the moment, we're not seeing a risk of job loss at the, on the net. On average, in total, in the unemployment force, we don't think there is high likelihood of net job losses because of AI, because of these 2 drivers that I've spoken about, the aging of the population and also job creation. As I was saying, to understand the impact of AI on the labor market, we have run 2 surveys, one quantitative and the other qualitative, in 2022, to understand what the impact of AI adoption was. We interviewed firms that are in the manufacturing sector and in the finance sector in 7 countries, not including Korea, unfortunately, so far. But these results give us a lot of insights on the impact of AI on the labor market. The first result that I want to summarize, you see here on the reported effect on the number of jobs. Basically, most of the employers that we surveyed said that there was no net effect of AI on employment, meaning the total number of employees they had did not change. And another 20% said that the total number of employees they had increased. This does not mean that there were no changes. They said that people had to change their tasks and their and description of their jobs in many cases, And sometimes people that were doing some things had to change their job within the firm, or that these employers were not replacing people who were retiring, for example, or they were leaving because they found another job. So this means that in the future there will be probably more a net effect, but so far we didn't find a negative net effect on average. We also asked about what impact AI has on job quality. And we've looked at many different dimensions of job quality. We started with performance here in the middle, and we asked workers if they thought that AI had improved their performance or not. And so the results are actually very positive. 80% of the workers who use AI in this survey said that AI had improved their performance. And AI also had a positive impact on physical health and on mental health. You can see here that about 56% of the workers say that the health and safety at work had improved when AI was adopted in their workplace. So overall, we're finding good results on positive results on the impact on job quality. We also know that AI is creating new jobs. For example, it's increasing job opportunities in AI specialist professions, so people who develop AI systems or that maintain them or help firms adopt AI. To understand what the impact is, we've looked at the number of online vacancies that specifically require AI skills. So these are AI specialist jobs of the type that I just said. So you can see that over time, there is a very significant increase in the countries for which we have data on online postings. Of course, this is a small share of the total workforce, as you can see here. It's not even 1% yet, because these are not, this is just a small sector of the economy, but the increase is significant, and we think it's a good indication that AI will create new job opportunities in AI jobs specifically, but also more broadly. But because of what I was saying before, that when employers adopt AI, then workers have to change a little bit their professions and what they do. There are broader impact of AI on skills needs. Especially we see that there are a lot of jobs that are not AI specialists that still need to know how to work with AI. They will need to use it properly in their daily works. And so we looked at these, at the skills that are most demanded in occupations that are highly exposed to AI. Now, to explain these occupations that are highly exposed to AI today, they're typically white-collar jobs, professional jobs, say in business or in finance, management, generally across various sectors. They're all highly exposed to AI. But as you can see here, in these jobs, you still need a lot of skills that have nothing to do with AI itself. So you have a very high demand for managing business or emotional and social skills, as well as digital skills. So what I'm trying to say is that in jobs that are highly exposed to AI, you need digital skills to work with them, but there are also skills that only humans have. Therefore, while these jobs are going to use AI a lot, they are not at a very high risk of complete automation. Only some tasks will be automated. But of course, in addition to all these benefits from the adoption of AI, there are also some risks. One of the first risks that I want to mention is that the benefits I just explained are not broadly shared. So there will be fewer people that will be able to have these benefits, and in particularly low-skilled people are still at risk of not having all of these benefits on average. But there are also other risks, and they are very specific to the technology. One risk is for privacy of workers in the workplace. And so in the surveys that I mentioned before, we asked workers if they're worried about their privacy when the employer is using AI in the workplace. 57% of the workers said that they are very worried about their privacy when data is collected for AI. So this is a significant share that needs to be addressed. And then we know that there are also other risks that we didn't survey specifically, but are very well documented in the literature. These are risks of bias, because AI is trained on data from the past, and as humans, we do have our biases, and so there is a high risk that these past biases, historical biases, are also reflected in the recommendations and decisions that AI makes based on the data. So the quality of the data that is used is very important, as is the need to take into account these possible biases when designing AI. And then there are risks for autonomy and agency. This means that when we use AI, especially to inform managerial decision, to make recommendations to managers about what to do, or to workers how to do their jobs, there is a risk that if these recommendations become very intensive and frequent, the workers do not feel empowered to make decisions and to do their jobs autonomously. This is not just an issue for the quality of work and for mental well-being, but it's also an issue for creativity, because then we could be in a situation where most people do their job in the same way, and we lose a little bit of innovation and creativity. Then we also know that AI can lead to lack of transparency in the workplace, because if we use AI to make recommendations about decisions, it's hard to know exactly what this recommendation is based on, what dimensions and what data were used and why a certain thing was recommended. We know this is a very common problem, for example, with large language models. And so there is a need for measures that take this into account. For example, there exist systems to sort of replicate measures that change one element and give you what the recommendation would have been. So they help with explainability. There is also an issue of transparency if people don't know that AI is used in their workplace, or even job seekers, which is a very common situation. If you apply for a job somewhere, you typically do not know whether the potential employer is using AI to select candidates for that job. And this has implications not just for the decision, but also on how to pursue your rights in case decisions appear to be biased or incorrect. And then finally, there's a risk of accountability. So if something goes wrong, if AI makes a recommendation that is problematic, or a decision that is problematic, then who is responsible for that error? Is it the developer? Is that the company that sold the AI system to the employer, or is it the employer's responsibility? This is important, especially when these decisions affect the rights of workers or their health and safety at work. So clearly there is a need for policy action on various dimensions. First dimension is training, as some of the speakers before me have already pointed out. The need for skills on AI, on how to develop and use it, is really very important. But more generally, when we interviewed employers in the surveys, 42% of them said that the lack of AI skills or more general digital skills as a barrier to AI adoption. And many employers are providing training, and when they do, we see that the results are better for workers. So workers are more likely to say that their AI has improved their productivity or their job quality when training is provided. But so far, much of the training that we see offered in OECD countries is not very specific to AI itself. So there is really a need to develop training modules and programs that are well adapted to the adoption of AI. Second area for policy action is social dialogue. Consulting workers on the adoption of AI is really important. It's not just a matter of shared decisions, but we know also that when workers are consulted, if AI is adopted in their workplace, they also have better results in terms of performance, in terms of job quality, as I said before. So it's important to find ways for this consultation to be meaningful, as it's important to promote social dialogue in an era of AI when we know that AI can present some risks for the social dialogue itself. So what needs to be done in terms of policy action? I talked about the need for training, I talked about the need for social dialogue and consultation, but I also want to say, as you can see on this right-hand side of the slide, that AI does not operate in a regulatory vacuum. There are already many policies and regulations that apply to the use of AI in the workplace. For example, in many countries, regulation and policies about data protection and privacy for digital technologies also apply to the use of AI. The same is true for anti-discrimination in the workplace. Laws that protect the rights of workers against discrimination are also applicable when decisions are made using or by AI in the workplace. And also health and safety regulations, of course, need to be respected when AI systems and tools are used in the workplace. So all of these laws already apply to the use of AI in the workplace and cover many of the aspects. But in some cases, it's possible that these regulations need to be adapted to take into account the specific characteristics of AI systems. I made the example before of when AI is used in hiring and anti-discrimination. So if AI is used in selecting candidates, it will be harder for candidates to contest any decisions if AI is used because of the way they need to prove that discrimination exists. And last, I want to say that there are also, though, some areas, some characteristics or risks, some risks linked to the use of AI that instead are not still well addressed by existing regulation in many countries. I was talking before about transparency, about explainability, and about accountability. And these are specific things that apply to AI because of its capacity of making predictions. And in many cases, they were still not well covered by policies and regulation. But countries are making progress in these areas as well. For example, in the EU, the European AI Act has introduced regulations for this, and countries are now moving in this region to apply this regulation. In the US, the Biden Act on AI also has implications for this when AI is used for decisions that affect the rights or the workers of people in the workplace. So it will be important to make progress in these areas and also monitor the implementation of these rules to understand where things need to be changed or what are the good practices, and then to develop good guidelines for actual implementation. So I want to close my presentation with a little bit of summary of what the OECD is doing to support countries in these issues. First of all, we are supporting countries with country-specific reviews of the impact of AI in the labor market, and this is the case for Korea. We're working with KLI to do such a review in the coming months. We're very excited about this. And then one thing that is basically news from a week ago, the OECD will develop a recommendation on the use of AI in the labor market to seize the benefits and address the risks of AI with policy recommendations that address all of the dimensions that I presented in this presentation today. We also are collecting data, of course, the data that I already presented, but new data as well. This year, we have collected data on the use of AI for algorithmic management, so for managing staff and work organization. We will publish these results around February in 2025. And we find that this type of use of AI is already quite widespread. And then we will also do a survey of the use of AI in small and medium enterprises, especially to look at skills, needs, and to address labor shortages. And then we have work to not just to the type of training that is needed to do AI, but also how training can use AI to deliver this training itself. So with that, I am done, and I will give back the floor to you. Thank you very much.
네, 안젤리카 OECD 선임 사무관님 발표 감사드립니다. 대단히 폭넓은 주제에 대해서 여러 가지 AI의 잠재적인 가능성과 위험, 불안 요소, 그거에 대한 대응까지 아주 잘 설명해 주신 것 같습니다. 제가 지정 토론을 맡아서 제가 간단하게 몇 가지 좀 질문 좀 드리고요. 청중에서도 좀 질문을 해 주셨으면 좋을 것 같습니다. 박사님, 선임 자무관님 발표에서도 잘 드러나 있듯이 저도 이제 기존 연구들을 좀 많이 살펴봤는데 요새 AI 관련 연구들이 워낙 많이 쏟아져요. 그리고 논문을 작성하는 방법도 과거에 비해서는 AI 도움을 받으면은 논문 하나 만들기가 너무 쉬워져가지고 정말 무더기로 지금 연구들이 쏟아지고 있는데 AI의 연구들을 쭉 보면은 여전히 잘 모르겠다는 거예요. 그래서 긍정적인 보고도 있고, 뭐 부정적인 보고도 있고, 여러 가지 효과들이 대단히 믹스된 효과들이 많이 나타나고 있거든요. 아마 안젤리카 선임 자무관님의 발표에서도 AI의 자동화 위험은 상당히 낮은 것 같지는 않은데, 전 세계 고용률은 여전히 코로나 이후에 레코드 하이를 기록하고 있어서, 하여튼 그런 결과를 나타내주고 있고, 일자리 또 질적 측면에서도 보면은 아까 발표하실 때 보면은 여러 가지 업무 성과나 생산성, 건강, 뭐 안전, 뭐 이런 데 상당히 긍정적인 영향을 미친다. 그리고 제가 이제 검토한 연구 결과도 이렇게 보면은 뭐 설문조사 결과도 보면은 텔레마케터나 예를 들어서 단순한 직종의 경우에 AI 노출도가 높은 단순 직종의 경우에도 오히려 AI가 도와주는 역할을 많이 하더라. 예를 들어 단순 코더, 그 개발자들의 경우에는 많이 대체될 것으로 봤는데, 그러한 그 개발자들의 경우에도 거의 AI들을 옆에 그 에이전트로 놓고 이렇게 사용을 하는, 그래서 오히려 생산성과 뭐 여러 가지 긍정적인 측면을 많이 보여준다, 뭐 이렇게 이야기를 하는데, 다른 한편에서는 이렇게 자기 업무의 뭐 한 5, 60% 정도를 AI가 해줄 수 있으면 도와줄 수 있지만, 그게 한 8, 90% 가까이로 올라가면은 경제성을 따지는 자본이나 기업의 입장에서는 노동을 대체할 수도 있기 때문에 그러한 긍정적이고 부정적인 효과들이 약간 믹스되어 있는 것 같습니다. 그래서 크게 이제 제가 하나 질문드리고 싶은 거는 한국에 대해서도 이제 검토를 하신다고 그랬기 때문에 최근에 한국이 저출산 고령화 하여튼 너무 잘 알려져 있잖아요. 과거에는 요새 이코노미스트인가 어디서 이제 사우스 코리아니피케이션이라는 단어를 사용을 하더라고요. 저출산 고령화를 나타내는 용어로. 예전에는 이제 재패니피케이션이라고 해서 장기 불황을 나타내는 용어를 이제 서방 언론들이 사용을 했었어요. 근데 사우스 코리아니피케이션은 한국의 저출산 고령화가 너무 빠르고 너무 높은 속도로 이렇게 진행이 되고 있어서 이걸 교훈으로 삼아야 된다, 이런 논의들이 많이 있어요. 그래서 근데 일부는 또 이런 저출산 고령화 시대에 AI 등장은 인류의 축복일 수 있다, 뭐 이런 주장을 하시는 분들도 있거든요. 그래서 한국의 저출산 고령화의 속도를 고려할 때 AI라는 게 거시적으로 일자리와 전체 경제의 어떤 성장, 생산성 이런 부분에 나름대로 긍정적인 영향을 혹시 미칠 수가 있을 것인지 그런 부분에 대해서 좀 궁금하기도 합니다. 그 다음에 아까 말씀하신 대로 질적으로도 여러 가지 긍정적인 측면들을 제시를 해주셨는데, 이게 아마 직종별로는 또 효과가 다르게 나타날 수 있을 것 같아요. 계층이나 직종별로는 어떤 직종은 대단히 좀 좋은 영향을 미치겠지만 어떤 다른 직종의 경우에는 부정적인 영향이 나타날 수도 있어서 어떠한 그 계층별로 좀 차별화된 영향들을 나타내는 보고들이 나타나고 있는지 이제 그런 부분도 좀 궁금합니다. 다음으로 질문드리고 싶은 거는 이제 정책 대응 방안과 관련한 건데, 아마 산업혁명 이후에 인간은 기술 발전에 대해서 주로 교육훈련 가지고 대응을 해왔던 것 같습니다. 그래서 기술과 교육 발전의 경쟁, 뭐 이런 식으로 표현들을 하잖아요. 그래서 기술이 발전하면 사회가 이제 교육훈련으로 대응을 하고, 뭐 이제 그런 방식으로 대응을 해왔는데, 과연 AI의 경우에도 교육과 훈련만으로 다 대응이 가능할지, 아니면은 일부에서 이제 비관적으로 생각하듯이 오히려 기본소득 같은 형태로 가야 되는 거 아니냐, 뭐 이런 주장도 좀 하고 있어서 AI에 대한 노동에 미치는 영향에 대해서 정책적으로 어떤 우선순위가 좀 필요한 건지 이제 그런 부분도 좀 궁금하기도 합니다. 다음으로는 아마 안젤리카 선생님 자문관님의 전공이기도, 전공이라기보다 최근 많은 관심을 가지고 연구를 하시는 부분이 아마 AI가 초래하는 여러 가지 위험성, 차별, 편견, 그다음에 여기 제시하셨듯이 작업장에서 자율성이랄지, 그다음에 투명성, 그다음에 설명 가능성, 뭐 이런 부분, 책임성 이런 부분에 대한 위험의 가능성이 높아진다고 제시를 해줬고, 그것에 대해서 정책적으로 대응을 해야 된다, 규제나 뭐 이런 부분이 필요하다 이렇게 말씀을 해주셨는데, 현실적으로 보면은 사실은 지금 AI의 기술 발전은 거의 통제를 받지 않고, 인간 통제를 받지 않고 빅테크 중심으로, 테크노크로트 중심으로 지금 발전을 하고 있는 것 같아요. 엄청난 자본이 집중되고 있고, 빅테크 기업들은 서로 죽기 살기로 투자를 하고 있고요. 그걸 말려야 되는 이제 국가는 뭐 미국과 중국의 경쟁으로 이제 손을 놓고 있는 그런 상황인 것 같습니다. 이제 상대적으로 AI 부분에서 좀 뒤졌던 EU 국가들은 규제를 하고 싶어 하는데, 그런 OECD나 EU 차원의 어떤 규제라는 게 이런 상황에서 과연 어느 정도 먹힐 건지, 한국식 표현으로 어느 정도 작동할 건지, 이런 부분에 대해서 약간 의구심이 있는 것도 사실입니다. 그래서 실효성 있는 규제라는 게 어떤 방식으로 가능할지 그런 부분에 대해서 좀 궁금하고요. 사회적 대화와 관련해서도 아마 최근에 미국의 항만노조 파업이 있었잖아요. 그 항만노조 위원장이 어떤 구호로 사실은 자기의 지위를 미국은 노조를 한번 하면은 노조 위원장 하면은 20년, 30년씩 하는 모양이더라고요. 재선된 이유가 이 항만 하역에서 자동화는 절대로 안 된다. 이 주장을 가지고 다시 위원장이 재선이 됐다고 그러더라고요. 그래서 그런 부분과 관련해서 저희 한국은 이 기술에 따른 자동화와 관련돼서 노사정 논의나 합의를 해본 경험이 대단히 취약합니다. 그동안 사실 구조조정 과정에서 여러 가지 문제도 나타나긴 했지만 전반적으로 이제 고용이 계속 증가하면서 그런 문제들이 좀 상쇄되는 경향이 있었는데 그런 자동화 문제와 관련된 어떤 일자리 위험 그런 부분과 관련해서 노사정의 사회적 합의 이런 부분에서 어떤 사례와 교훈을 얻을 수 있을지 그런 부분도 좀 궁금하기도 합니다. 제가 이제 좀 저도 연구자 입장이라서 발표하실 때 이제 그 AI 관련 AI에 의해서 일자리를 대체하냐 보완하느냐 뭐 이런 연구들을 많이 해요. 그래서 여기도 보니까 AI 자동화 지표도 제시를 해줬고 AI 노출도 개념도 제시를 해주셨는데 혹시 시간이 되시면 그 부분과 관련해서도 간단히 설명해 주시면 개인적으로는 고맙겠습니다. 저 개인적인 토론 질문은 이 정도로 하고요. 혹시 청중에서 추가적인 질문을 좀 더 받고 우리 선임 연구관님의 좀 답변을 좀 듣도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 질문 있으시면 없으신가요? 조금 내영진 교수님.
그 발표 잘 들었습니다. 제가 좀 궁금한 부분은 그 정책 부분인데요. 그러니까 그 인공지능에 관한 이게 정책적 규제는 주로 보니까 인공지능을 뭐 사람을 평가하거나 뭐 채용하거나 이런 곳에 사용할 때 규제들이 주로 이렇게 많이 등장을 하더라고요. 근데 그런 거 말고 혹시 그러니까 사실은 인공지능이 그 작업장에서 뭐 자동화를 하고 뭐 이러면서 이게 나타나는 또 다른 영역이 있잖아요, 그죠? 사람 그 사이의 어떤 인공관계나 평가 부분이 아니고 그러니까 그런 영역에 관한 혹시 그 유럽이나 뭐 서구 사회에서 어떤 뭐 규제나 또 그걸 뭐 어떻게 정책적으로 이게 가려고 하는 그런 움직임이 혹시 있다면은 그런 부분도 좀 이게 의견을 좀 듣고 싶습니다. 예, 이상입니다.
예, 알겠습니다. 작업장에서 뭐 노사 간의 관계도 있겠고, 뭐 노동자들 간의 관계도 있고, 단순히 평가를 넘어서 그런 부분에서 AI가 들어올 때 어떤 방식으로 규제를 하고 대응을 하는지 이제 그런 질문을 해주신 것 같습니다. 네, 혹시 저희 선생님 귀한 선생님 질문 해주시고요. 소속 간단하게 말씀.
제가 좀 관심이 있는 건 특히 이번 발표하신 안젤리카 분에 대한 질문인데요. 특히 이분이 밀라노 대학을 나오신 걸로 알고 있는데, 이탈리아에서의 디자인 같은 경우는 고유한 문화와 역사적 맥락을 반영하는 경우가 많지 않습니까? 그런데 이것이 AI가 이러한 요소를 이해하고 반영하는데 한계가 있을 수도 있을 것이고요. 또 이래 인해서 이태리의 고유의 전통이라든가 지역적 특색을 반영하는 디자인 이런 것들이 사라질 수 있는 그런 요건도 만들어지고 있는 것 같아요. 그래서 이런 거에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지 그거 좀 질문해 보고 싶습니다.
이태리 출신이셔서 여러 가지 디자인이나 이런 쪽에도 영향을 미칠 수 있을 것 같은데 재밌는 흥미로운 질문인 것 같습니다. 혹시 다른 질문이 없으시면은 일단 우리 선임관님 먼저 답변을 듣고 혹시 추가로 더 질문하실 수 있으면은 질문 대화 토론하도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sure that will not be clear enough and there will be follow-up questions on my answers. So, to start off on AI automation and aging, so yes, I do think that in the future there is a high likelihood that you know, as the technology becomes more powerful, then it will be able to automate more tasks, and so the risk of automation could increase. The risk of automation could also increase if AI is more adopted than now. So far, there's not a very large share of firms that really use AI a lot. I mean, that's what we saw in the surveys. The surveys are also from 2022, so ChatGPT was not yet launched when, or like similar programs. They were not commonly available to the public. These large language models were already used by firms that we interviewed, but not, you know, commonly open tools like ChatGPT. So nowadays, probably, if you ask many firms, they might not have large language model embedded in their systems, but I'm quite sure that most of the workers would be using them anyway. So if we look at diffusion today, it would be much higher, and we would be probably seeing different results. And this is why we're going to run a similar survey in 2 years to see where we are. But what I want to say is that, yes, some tasks are going to be automated. And as you said, Professor, as more and more tasks in a job are automated, people will need to change their job and do something else. But there will always be new jobs, or jobs that AI cannot do or should not do because we need this human creativity in it, or the social interaction. So what really is important, as already in the past, is the ability to adapt to these changing needs and to new jobs. This is not the first big transformation that we've seen, and so we'll probably navigate through it again. What you were saying about the aging of the population is one of the reasons why even in the next 20 or 30 years, it's unlikely in many countries that we are going to see a net loss in employment rates. You know, when you have half of the working age is going to disappear in the next 30, 40 years, that's a lot of tasks that someone will need to do. And I do look at AI as something that will help us in these needs. But we need to use it responsibly. You know, you were saying that AI development is not very well controlled in many ways. And this is probably true. I would agree with that statement in many ways. So what is needed is sectoral approaches to regulate a little bit, or to guide the use of AI in the sector, for example, in health, or when AI is used by public administration to deliver services, or to identify beneficiaries of and so, you know, and then in employment as well. So we're saying that you can, you know, with regulation that employers have to follow when you use AI in the labor market, then you can guide how AI is used in employment. I want to talk about social dialogue about this because you asked to have example of how countries do it. So in some countries, for example, in Germany, there is a high use of social dialogue and collective bargaining in many aspects, and in the use of AI as well. This means that when an employer wants to adopt AI for certain uses, especially to make decisions about employers, say, for example, the work schedules, or whether workers are assigned to certain trainings or to certain jobs internally because they need to change tasks, then there is a consultation. And in some cases, there are even collective agreements, meaning that then these agreements that are made through social dialogue then have to be respected in that company or in that sector, depending on where this applies. So this is a very important tool that can be used. And as I was saying, our evidence does show that when you use this consultation, the impact of AI is better. And so it's not compulsory, but it's really important to go through it and use these tools. You were asking then if, to me, in my opinion, if training is still the most important thing, or maybe we should think about basic income. I guess the basic income idea becomes really important if we believe that there will be a large share of people who will be without a job because of AI. I do think, because of what I said before, that training remains probably the most important answer in many ways, because of what I was saying. Because if the net impact is not that we're going to be without jobs, but most of us will need to change what we do at work, then we need the training to be able to change. And by training, I do not mean just education at school. Actually, we think that in the future, we might need to change a little bit the way we prepare for work and how we learn. So now there is a strong focus on front-loading education, so education at the start of your life and many years of study, and then you go into work and typically get very little training after that. That will probably, that is changing and will need to change even more in the future. Training in the workplace and in adult life will become more and more important. And we don't even mean long periods of training where you go and get some sort of certificate that takes you weeks of participation in training program. We mean modular trainings, so short trainings that is, that you can build one after the other, that are easy to do and that become therefore more accessible to people who have less time, less income to participate in this training. You mentioned basic income. I want to say that even though training to me remains a very important, probably the most important answer, adapting social protection is necessary as well. It can be basic income, it can be other forms of support, but social protection needs to adapt to a world of work where it's no longer true that most people have long-term, open-ended, full-time jobs. More people will have, maybe part-time jobs or whole jobs for shorter periods of time. Therefore, social protection needs to become more adaptable, more flexible, meaning that we will need to have better connection between your current situation and the benefits that you get. Right now, it takes a long time. So when you look at the benefits that you get, they are based on information from last year or from 2 years ago because of the way that you adapt and update your situation in benefit systems. This needs to change in the future. I hope I answered most of the question, but you can tell me later in a second if you don't think I did. From the floor, the first question, if I understand, we're asking about use of AI beyond hiring and evaluation, and what does this mean in terms of example of regulation or or policies that are made. If you're thinking about the use of AI in the labor market, in the workplace still, there's a lot of uses of AI that call for policy responses. For example, you know, a lot of AI and AI-powered robotics are used in physical labor nowadays to make labor safer. For example, in warehouses, many are developing tools where you have exoskeletons that help identify risks when people lift weights or when they move dangerous objects, or AI tools that help inspect products on the production floor. Often inspections were very uncomfortable or dangerous because of the way, you know, because of the physical way they are done. For example, we interviewed a manufacturer of airplanes, basically jets, engines, and part of the things they do is to inspect the blades of the engines they have built, and doing that means for a human going into the engine and being in a very dark, hot, and uncomfortable environment. And so with tools to use learning and vision, they were able to automate and do that through an AI tool with a person that was from the outside doing this inspection. So this is to say that there are many uses that are not about evaluation and hiring, but are about the daily jobs. And in these areas as well, there's a lot to do. We need to apply health and safety regulation. We need to audit these tools. We need to make sure they function well, they don't present further risk, that they interact well with the humans and at the pace that human can understand, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, you know, I don't know if your question was also going beyond use of AI in the labor market in other sectors. Of course, that also is something that we're looking at. Let me know if you want to talk more about that. And the last question I thought was really interesting. It's not just about the design of buildings in Italy. I guess it's about, more generally, in a sense, about diversity and innovation and human uniqueness, and what we bring as humans when we work, even on repetitive tasks. So this is a little bit what I was saying before. There will be things that only humans can do. AI, at least for now, doesn't invent anything. It just predicts things based on past human work. You know, we might think that it's creative, but it's really not. So on the one hand, this is good. On the other, it also means, I think, in my personal opinion, that there are risks that are not very well discussed often in the literature. And to me, this risk of standardization of ideas, loss of ideas, you know, we all will do our work in the same way. We all produce speaking points and papers that look very similar. Actually, we might end up in a situation where I come here, I do my speech, then there's an AI system that does the summary of my speech for people that were not there, and then some other AI system will do a summary of this summary to bring it up to the attention of managers with little time somewhere else. So this, to me, is a real risk of losing diversity in itself, and it's even higher when you consider that many of these models are developed by very few companies, and so there's a loss of cultural diversity in this. I guess it's important to educate people about the limitations of what AI does. As I said, the fact that it doesn't create, it doesn't invent, it doesn't have ideas. And if you want new ideas, you need to keep humans involved in this. Thank you.
네, 아주 구체적인 답변 감사드리고요. 저희가 시간이 조금 초과됐는데 정말 추가로 질문하실 분 안 계시죠? 아마 정리를 잘 해주신 것 같아요. 저출산 고령화 국가위기에 대응해서 AI는 정말 위기이자 도전인 것 같습니다. 잘 활용을 해야 될 것 같고요. 국가 전략으로 만들 필요가 있고, 규제를 아주 좀 분야별로 잘 타겟팅한 그런 규제 접근이 이제 실효성을 높일 수 있을 것 같다. 사회적 대화에 있어서도 여러 작업 배치랄지 교체 문제, 훈련 문제와 관련해서 논의할 게 대단히 많을 것 같고, 여전히 교육 훈련이 중요한 것 같습니다. 물론 대학 교육보다 평생 교육이 더 중요하다고 하셔서 대학에 몸담고 있는 저는 어떻게 해야 될지 잘 모르겠습니다. 그래서 이 평생 교육 쪽도 대단히 중요할 것 같고, 여전히 인간의 창의성, 대단히 창의성은 인간에게 남아있는 가장 고유한 특징으로 당분간은 남아있을 것 같습니다. 아마 지금 파리가 6시 좀 넘었잖아요. 저는 6시면 한밤중인데 아침 일찍 일어나셔서 좋은 발표 그다음에 답변해 주셔서 정말 감사드립니다. 네, 감사합니다. 안젤리카 박사님 감사합니다. 다음에 혹시 뵐 수 있는 기회 있으면 OECD 방문해서 한번 뵙고 인사드리도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.